I'm Tim Bradner. Welcome to Capitol News. And welcome Mike Barnhill, the Acting Commissioner of Revenue. New
Hello.
job here. So, Mike, you have been around Juneau a long time, state government. You've had many positions, very experienced. You know the system well. Maybe you could walk us through some of the things you've done, and then any thoughts you have about your new department.
Sure. I have. It does seem like I've been here a while now. I graduated from law school in 1993. My wife and I came up, and I was in private practice here in Juneau, as well as in Anchorage, for 5 years, and then an opening was at the Department of Law and the Oil and Gas section. And so I joined that section in 1998. I did that for 12 years, and then I joined the Parnell administration as Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Administration. Did that for 4 years, and then in the Walker administration, I started out after a little break in the Office of Management and Budget, worked under Pat Pitney, and then went over to the Department of Administration and worked under Commissioner Sheldon Fisher. And then I did a little bit of a left turn. I went and worked for the Department of Revenue and as an investment officer in the Treasury section. And so we still do manage funds for the Alaska Retirement Management Board, the pension systems, as well as Treasury funds. I did that for 2 years, and I started down the path of getting my certificate as a chartered financial analyst. I finally passed those tests last year. In my last year at the Department of Revenue in the Walker administration, I was Deputy Commissioner under Sheldon Fisher when he became Commissioner. He moved as Commissioner of Administration to Commissioner of Revenue. And then in the Dunleavy administration, I went back to the Office of Management Budget, worked under Donna Ardoin as Policy Director, did that last year. And fast forward to now, I got a phone call last December asking if I could be acting Commissioner of Revenue for a time, and so I've been doing that since December, and it's really been quite fun. I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
What a path! You know, the aspect of investments in the revenue department is interesting because most people think of the revenue department as the tax collector, particularly oil and gas taxes, but forget that you guys are in charge of a lot of money, and that's a real responsibility you've got.
So the Department of Revenue has a number of functions. What folks mostly know is that we give out the permanent fund dividends. We administer the dividend program and do that annually. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, we did the first annual PFD education raffle, and that was fun. So yeah, we have the dividend division, we have the Treasury division, which manages both the retirement system funds as well as the state's general fund and constitutional budget reserve, power cost equalization, higher education funds like that. So all told, there's probably about $40 billion under management in the Treasury division. And then housed within the Department of Revenue, but it's a corporation with separate independent existence, of course, is the Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation, and they manage $67 billion. So that's obviously extremely important, not only to the people in the form of the dividend they get every year, but now to the state of Alaska in terms of the earnings that are distributed.
No, you're also the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation.
Alaska Housing Finance Corporation is another independent corporation that is housed within the Department of Revenue. And then other divisions are the Child Support Services Division, as well as the Tax Division. So there's a lot of very interesting work that happens within the Department of Revenue.
Which of those divisions do you have to spend most of your time on, or you wish you didn't have to spend so much of your time on?
You know, I probably spend my time in the month and a half that I've been there pretty evenly. But right now, we're focusing a lot of effort in the tax division. And we want to be ready to support discussion of new revenues or incremental changes to existing revenues if that discussion arises in the context of the legislature. The governor has said that he is not opposed to new revenues or increases to existing revenues, but he's very careful to also add to that the state really needs to get a handle on the constitutional appropriation limit that we passed decades ago that really hasn't worked to restrain state spending. And so there are vehicles in the legislature. There's one before the Senate Finance Committee now seeking to reform the existing constitutional appropriation limit so that it acts more as a restraint on state spending. So if we can couple those two issues together, a look at new revenues along with fixing that appropriation limit.
In the new revenue category, I recall that when Governor Walker came into office, he had, there were a lot of ambitious talk about new revenue options, and some really good research was done as to what these new ideas like a sales tax would generate. And have you been able to dust off some of that work?
We've dusted off all of that work, and the governor's going to be using some of that work in his meetings, community meetings that he's starting. But in particular, the sales tax, we have examples from across the country on what sales taxes can raise. And historically, we've looked at each 1% of a state sales tax raising between $100 and $130 million in new revenue. But if you go to a broader base sales tax like they have in South Dakota and Wyoming, they could raise even more. Yeah. And so a 4% sales tax could raise between $600 and $1 billion if it's a super broad base. So these are things that we can discuss, in the context.
We have just a short amount of time left, but now you've got the lottery. Is that going to be your responsibility?
There's a Deputy Commissioner, Greg Simorowski, in the department who was with the former Commissioner Bruce Tangeman for the entirety of last year, and that's his responsibility, and he's done a good job of working that up.
Good. Well, Mike, thank you for coming down to join us. Mike Barnhill, Acting Commissioner of Revenue. And thank you, Mike, and thank you for joining us at Capitol Views. This is Tim Bradner.